I conducted a poll asking, since Destiny shut down, which game have you moved on to? I wasn't expecting anything groundbreaking. I figured the votes would just spread across a bunch of games. And to be fair, they were. People mentioned Warframe, Path of Exile, Escape from Tarkov, and several others. One answer stood out to me though, The Division 2. There were over 1,000 votes, and about 70% pointed to Ubisoft's 8-year-old looter shooter. Now, I want to make something clear because some people were getting a little bit triggered by the question that I asked in a poll. This isn't me saying Destiny 2 is shut down, because it isn't. You can still log in and play today, and plenty of people still are. Some of the comments reminded me exactly of that, but I also don't think that's really the point. Whether people have already left or simply thinking about what comes next, this whole entire conversation is completely shifted to something else. It's like an evolution. Players are looking around in a way they've never done before. And that wasn't only reflected in this poll. Over the last few months, I've been noticing more and more comments on my own videos from people saying things like, I just came over from Destiny, or I'm completely new to The Division. Thanks for helping me understand the game. Individually, those comments don't really mean much, but when you start seeing the same thing over and over, and then a poll with over 1,000 votes pointing in the same direction, I was beginning to wonder if something bigger is happening here. Ironically, this isn't a new story for me. Years ago, I made the same transition myself. I began with the Gears of War franchise, then played a lot of Destiny at its inception. I was there for the iconic Gjallarhorn and then Might and Multi-Tool, also the legendary first raid, the Vault of Glass, and how broken the Vex Mythoclast was before it was nerfed. Eventually, I moved on to Division once that was announced, then released. Such a revolutionary time. I didn't think much about it. It was just another game that looked interesting. But looking back now, I think I was experiencing something that's been much more common in this live service era, because gaming isn't what it used to be. There was a time when buying a game meant exactly that. You bought it, you played it, maybe you beat it a couple times, and then moved on to what came next. Nobody expected one game to become the place where they spent the next 5 or 10 years. Live service games completely changed that. Today, players don't simply buy games, they build characters. We learn these complicated systems and become part of these huge communities. Some of them diehard communities, and many of them are niche, but it's their niche. And we become friends. Then there's routines. You know, we spend hundreds or even thousands of hours in these ecosystems. Eventually, that game becomes really familiar and something quintessential to your actual daily lifestyle. And I think that's what makes moving on so different today than it was 15 years ago. So it's different. It's not like, okay, what game are we playing next? It's kind of like that because we have GTA coming, and then when you have anticipation of games like Arc Raiders, you naturally anticipate those games, but it's different now. It's like when you do anticipate these games, you're asking, where do I want to spend the next few years? You might not be thinking that actively, but subconsciously, that's what's happening. And you know, that's a completely different type of question and observation. When you've invested that much time into one game, you don't necessarily want the newest release. It's like you want something that feels stable or familiar, something that scratches that same itch that Destiny 2 did. And I think that's one of the reasons Division 2's been the topic of so many conversations, especially in that poll and a lot of the comments that I was talking about. And in today's live service landscape, that may be more valuable than we all realize. Now, if you're one of those Destiny 2 players who found your way to Division 2, I happen to be one of those content creators who have played Division 2 extensively, so welcome. And I feel like I should give you a little perspective from someone who's been here since the beginning. I've been playing this franchise since the original Division, and I've spent the last 8 years covering the Division 2. I've watched this game through its highest highs and some very uncertain lows. In fact, Division 2 has been supported by the developers more than twice the amount of time Division 1 has ever been. There was even a point where that wasn't something any of us expected. For nearly 2 years, during this time, the game was effectively in a holding pattern. Massive Entertainment and Ubisoft Studios were spread across major projects like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Skull and Bones, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Star Wars Outlaws, and several others. Content for the Division 2 slowed dramatically, and for a while, many of us genuinely wondered if the game had quietly reached its end. And it was a justified thought. Then things changed. Support resumed out of the blue. New seasons returned and systems were expanded. Entirely new mechanics were introduced, and later on, prototypes were introduced. Suddenly the game had a future again. Of course, that delay has raised another question that many longtime players still have today. Where is the Division 3? The answer is a lot more complicated than most people realize. Ubisoft went through restructurings with layoffs and project shifts and changes in how several of its biggest franchises were managed. They lost a lot of money, and to be honest, it feels like when I think about it sometimes, I look at their situation, I'm thinking, how are they even staying afloat still? There's enough history there to fill an entire video in and of itself, so we'll get to that in a later date, conversation for another day. What I want to focus on is you. Because if you're just arriving from Destiny, you're entering a game with almost 8 years of content, progression systems, and things to chase. There are hundreds of viable builds, exotics to collect, hunters to track down, legendary missions, incursions, raids, descent, the Dark Zone, Countdown. Wow. When I actually think about all of this stuff, even though I'm a veteran, it sounds really intriguing when you think about it from a new player's perspective. Y'all got a lot of stuff to do. And then you have optimization, expertise, and now prototype gear. And if this all sounds overwhelming, it can be, especially expertise, man. All right, so this is where this conversation gets kind of uncomfortable a little bit, but bear with me. Expertise is one of the game's long-term progression systems. Every weapon, gear piece, skill, and specialization can be made proficient simply by using it or donating duplicate items and materials. As you increase your proficiency across more and more equipment, your overall expertise level rises, and reaching the maximum isn't something that happens in a weekend. This is a literal grind, almost a second job, for real. It takes hundreds of hours of gameplay, countless resources, and a willingness to interact with almost every system in the game, even for dedicated players. Now, I eventually reached expertise level 30 after realizing that that's just a personal goal that I wanted to reach. And this unlocked for me the latest progression system. Some people call it level 50, prototype gear. This gear allows you to evolve high-end equipment into more powerful versions with additional bonuses and new build possibilities with the addition of augments. It's opened the door to some incredibly creative builds, I can attest to that, but it's also sparked plenty of debate within the community. Some players love the added depth and experimentation, while others argue that it pushes the power creep way too far, making so many builds, gear, and weapons pretty much obsolete, which makes that previously optimized gear feel way less valuable. But hold on. I'm not going to act like this is something new in this live service era. That's the reality of this type of ecosystem, what it's evolved into. Because as these systems evolve, so does the meta. Sometimes that's exciting, or it can be frustrating. And eventually, every live service game reaches a point where progression begins to feel like less discovery and more like maintenance. The grind becomes longer and the goals become smaller. You know how it could be like a triple time XP event, and then you see your experience level go up this much. When it used to go up this much, it just starts to become this sort of grind that you don't want to be a part of. You're like, I'm over it. I'm done. When I was level 29 expertise, it took me so long to get to 30. It was crazy. So chasing that next upgrade can start to feel more like checking off a list than uncovering something new. But when you get there, it actually feels fulfilling. That's what I'm saying. It's like a love-hate relationship, because I really enjoy upgrading my gear to expertise. Because if there's a specific weapon or piece of gear that you want to make for a build's purpose, then you can find that gear piece or craft it and then level it to expertise, totally within your control. You can only do that if you're level 30. Yeah, it's bittersweet. So Division 2 is not immune to this type of feeling that almost every looter shooter or live service game gives. But here's the difference. If you're brand new, you aren't at that stage yet. You're about to experience everything that longtime players like me, who spent nearly a decade discovering one update at a time. What feels routine to us veterans will feel completely new to you. In a strange way, this might actually be the best time anyone has ever had to start playing the Division 2.